how the move to Highways then from countryside sandwiches and doilies?
I don't know how. I think I might have got sandwiches on a doily plate about twice. The rest of it was.
I realised it wasn't all you cracked it up to be.
Hard work, long days, rain, sleet, snow, blood, sweat, and tears. I managed to break my shoulder the weekend before I was going to do it, but I was.
Is this why you needed another man very quickly? Because you physically couldn't do it.
You might have referred to us as a bunch of Misfits.
And yeah, she might well have. Yeah, Joanne, mind. Yeah, Joanne,
For any good reason, or just being a bit mean?
I would say, do you have to double check it every time you get asked something? And you're like, is this a me one, or is this going to be a you one when you decide that it's dictatorial time?
Do you know, I was trying not to laugh. Just to that.
As the owner of a business that's turned 18, then what does that mean to you to kind of go so far with something that was your brainchild?
I'm thoroughly surprised, and if not slightly shocked. You said it was my brainchild. That's also a misnomer, because it really wasn't. It was an accident to some extent that I even started working for myself. But fundamentally because I realised I wasn't that employable, because I was quite annoying to other people. So the only way out of that is to work for yourself. And 18 years later, it is nothing like what I thought it was going to be. And I've loved every bit of it. I've loved most bits of it. But wouldn't necessarily change it because I can't change the past. I would probably change how it's been done at many steps along the way if I had the opportunity to do it again. But it's fundamentally been good fun.
If it was an accident, at any point did you have a plan?
Yes, I had a plan. I was going to fit solar-powered gates to little 5-bar gates in the countryside on lovely summer's days when it never rained, and people would bring me sandwiches on plates with the doily. That was my plan. And that didn't happen for long. Because maybe it's because I was quite good at doing that. Maybe it's because I was quite interested in improving it, or improving anything. I have an interest in improving all sorts of things. Your cup would be slightly easier for you to drink if you just moved it slightly to your right. So I had an interest in improving it. And then before I knew it, it was no longer that one-man band that I thought I wanted to run on my own with my committee of one. And I needed another man, and then another man, and another man, and it continued to grow. But was it an accident that my first customer was a school for a thing that I had never fitted before in my life? So it had to be good. Actually, that very first installation that we got, I managed to break my shoulder the weekend before I was going to do it, but I was...
Is this why you needed another man very quickly? Because you physically couldn't do it?
That particular one, I managed to get some... I think my mechanic helped me, and another friend, because it wasn't that badly broken. I'd broken my collarbone flying a kite in a storm, which I thought would be curious, and I found out that it's actually dangerous. But
yeah.
Yeah, so that first one was a school, and we offered something that they couldn't find. They wanted to automate a gate 150 metres away from the school building for a new school. They just, a nursery I think it was, so they just wanted this gate to open in the morning and then close, and then open at lunchtime and then close, and then open at 3 o'clock and then close. And they wanted an intercom back to the school, and it was 200 metres away from the school, and they were given a bill of in excess of £10,000 to put the power cable out, and yet the Green Gate Company, as it was then called, could do all of that for less than the cost of their power trench. So it was a solar powered gate. It wasn't necessarily going to save the world and the planet, but it was going to save them a considerable amount of money digging up playgrounds to get the power cable out to where they needed it. So we fitted it, and they loved it, and that was the UK's first solar powered electric gate.
And why solar for you then, right from day one?
It was something I had noticed being developed, and it was something I wanted to see develop more. And it was always going to be a small niche business, and that has a small niche market. But it was also at the same time, do you remember Maplins? Remember them?
Yes.
Yeah, so they just started their solar world exactly the same year, 2006, where they were selling solar powered phone chargers and hat fans and stuff. So solar was becoming a bit more vogue and topical at that time. Solar roofing was very new. So it was just an area that I wanted to get involved in. But gate automation was just a particular niche part of that solar journey. And
How the move to Highways then from countryside sandwiches and doilies?
Don't know how, I think I might have got sandwiches on a doily plate about twice. The rest of it was
Well, I realised it wasn't what you cracked it up to be.
hard work, long days, rain, sleet, snow, blood, sweat and tears. But yeah, how are Highways? The client base was always a mixture straight away. Education, local councils, things like park and ride car parks, shared estates, where there isn't a landlord supply. So anywhere where power was the question was where we started to fit. And quite quickly our geographical remit was getting bigger and further away from Kent. So it wasn't actually Highways first. Our first break into where we are now was one of the large house developing companies who came to us, and actually all they asked for originally was a quote for a solar power barrier. Can we have a quote for a solar power barrier, please? So I gave the guy a quote, and the buyer didn't really want to talk about it. He said, no, thanks, that's all I need. And then about 4 months later, I had a phone call from this buyer who said, actually, we got one that we could see. I'd like to see one. So I arranged to meet them at I think it was a DHL car park we'd done relatively near the head office. And off I went to go and meet this buyer, to find that I was met by 5 senior directors of this house building company. And they said, we have a problem that we can't solve, and we can't find a product that will solve it yet. What we want is one of your solar power barriers, like this one we've come to see, one of your solar power gates, like the ones you've seen on your website, and we want it all put together on a pallet that we can move around the site, because the site is always changing. But their problem was they didn't shut the gate. That was it. And if they don't shut the gate on a building site, the health and safety inspector would get quite antsy, quite rightly. So they could either shut the gate, which the contractors weren't doing, or they could pay a man to stand there for 3 years and look after the entrance, or they could ask for a product that hadn't yet been combined or invented. And they asked if we'd like to build one. And I looked at the problem and said, well, yeah, because it's a solar power barrier like this one and a solar power gate that we're used to on a pallet, which I think I understand, running on solar. So 2 months later, we went back to them with a prototype, and that became the beginning of the SOSEC range, which is short for solar security. So it was a fully mobile gate barrier system that can be dropped onto any construction site and then moved as they move, and then taken away when they're finished. So that was taken up quite quickly by house builders, quarrying companies, those sorts of players. And then we showed it to National Highways. No, quite good, but if we could wheel it along, that'd be even better. So we took the concept and slimmed it right down and removed the gate and slimmed everything down and put it on wheels, and went back to National Highways, and they said, yeah, that's brilliant. And actually in 2019, they featured that in the Raising the Bar videos as an example of going above and beyond best practice as an anti-incursion barrier. And so a lot of these things weren't necessarily planned. Going from automating 5-bar gates in the countryside to construction sites, to mobile security products, to even more mobile security products that work for highways. that then led on to railways and projects like HS2 with a mixture of solar security devices. None of it was particularly planned, but we were reactive to what we were presented. One of my best engineers, we went on a sort of think tank innovation day project, and it was talking about the way you could innovate and deploy and develop and design and spend a long process. But one of my engineers said, I'm so bored of delivering these instrument barriers, and then we always put it outside the security hut. Why don't we just do a barrier that's built into a hut? And I said, that's a really good idea. Here's $5,000, go and build me a prototype. And within 2 months, we had a new product on our hands, because it was a good idea. So sometimes the best ideas are not necessarily complicated. It was a simple idea. And so, yes, I just haven't been particularly constrained by a rigid plan. Possibly because there wasn't a very strong plan in the first place.
So the answer to the question was, there was a plan, it just wasn't particularly stringent or detailed at that point. It was a case of listen and adapt and have a go. Because I was going to ask you about innovation, and you just mentioned it. It seems like a lot of what you just told me was almost like innovation by demand, like someone needed something, so you went and found a way to do it, as opposed to sitting around creating a range of products and then taking that to people.
That's mostly right, yes.
I'll take most of that. That's better than I usually get.
I mean, what I mean by that is it is normally that way around. It is normally a reactive decision to a problem that's been presented to us, and then coming up with something that will potentially overcome that problem. And I think we got very good at it, because as a gate barrier and bollard installer for a decade, although we fitted maybe more than 1,000, less than 2,000 automatic gates, barriers and bollards for houses or schools or county councils, and essentially they're the same. They either open that way or open that way or go up and down. They're essentially a machine that works the same, controlled by some devices, and have some access control connected to them. So effectively all the same, and every single one is different because every entranceway is slightly different. The concrete's thicker or deeper, or the tree lines are laid out differently, the entrance is laid out differently, the customer wants a different need, different people are allowed in, different or out, or when are they allowed in or out, or who are they? And every single installation that our fixed installation team have ever done has been bespoke. And so there is a team of engineers there who are really good at seeing a problem and finding the quickest, safest, most cost-effective way out of that problem. And it was a problem they didn't know they had that morning, because they've just found it. And so they're skilled at thinking creatively and innovatively. And that is what has allowed us to be so agile in responding to customers' ideas. And without those ideas, half our products would not be anywhere near as good as they are now, because it's the customer ideas that get fed back in quite quickly. We write our own software, we develop our own programming tools, and there's little lines of code that are called by a particular customer name, because it was a particular customer who had the idea that it'd be really good if it, instead of doing just an up, it did an up and then a halfway down. It's like, yeah, I agree with you, that is a good idea. And then
they keep their legacy through the code of the systems themselves now.
It gets written as the Bob loop or whatever it's called.
Yeah, that's nice.
And so it's just being able to be small enough, nimble enough as a company, and have the team around us who are also creative and adaptive, that has allowed us to move quite quickly from fixed installations into construction companies, into tarmacking or construction, fixed installations to construction companies, to quarrying companies, to highways, to railways and airports. Has been a relatively swift move. but simply because we do things as effectively and innovatively and cost effectively as possible.
And how big's your team now? Because obviously Anna's with us. You started as an army of one, committee of one, I think you said. How does that landscape look now? 18 years on, how big is your team? Who's involved in that team? The Solar Gates UK team as a whole?
How big is it? Is it you talking in numbers or mass?
Numbers.
You can start in numbers and move to
But
mass.
if you could do the maths for the math, no, the maths for the maths, that would be quite impressive.
How big is the team? We're currently mid-20s in numbers, fluctuates occasionally. So, and we have effectively 3 depots as of the last year now as well. So we've grown gently, but that's been, you know, from one person 18 years ago to 25-ish now. Has been a gentle but sustained growth.
And that's a bunch of people that you affectionately coin. I usually see on social media as a team of misfits that fit. Where did that little moniker come from?
I can't remember where we got that from now. Misfits came from our New Zealand distributor, and RTL, who are brilliant. And I think she came up with the Misfits part of it, didn't she? Or the saying.
I think you might have referred to us as a bunch of misfits.
And yeah, she might well have. Yeah, Joanne, mind. Yeah, Joanne.
For any good reason, or just being a bit mean?
No, she was actually singing our praises. I think I can't remember where it came from, but
we're probably more akin to the New Zealand culture than the British culture in the way we act, and they spotted it. But being politically correct, I think in European ends of the world, to call a bunch of people a bunch of misfits can be construed. So we needed to tailor it with the fact that they fit. And we tailor it really carefully, because fundamentally if someone doesn't fit the team, we help them move because they need to fit. It's really important.
Yeah.
We have a fast-moving, dynamic workplace that we work in. Our clients are fast-moving and dynamic and demanding, and they need us to be the same. And so if we don't fit together, we're not going to help one another, and then that must stop. So yeah, it's really important. You can be as misfitty as you like. You know, you and I have spoken in the past about the fact that we have a mixture of addicts and convicts in the team, and a bunch of people who haven't been caught yet. But we need to get on, you know, so that we can be as misfitty as we like, but as long as we fit. That's really important.
Well, that was one of the reasons I said to you before we started working together, that I just saw a lot of stories, and I'd seen the way that, well, both of you actually, but the business kind of presents on social media and presents itself, and might be able to touch on a traffic story later, I'm not sure, but just some of the things that, let's just say, you have done that maybe don't necessarily have a tie on or fit that stereotypical look of what a corporation looks like. And it gets, like, I noticed it, I knew stuff about your business that when we were speaking about working together, I could say to you, oh yeah, because I've seen this, that and the other, like it got my attention.
Yeah.
Where does that come from, that sort of, almost like a lack of fear, I guess, to be able to say, you know what, this is who we are, and this is what we'll do, and I don't know if this is too far to say, and we don't really care what you think because this is who we are. Like, that's quite brave in its own way, to not be maybe cast aside as unprofessional, inverted commas. Like, where does that sort of authenticity to who you are come from? Like, why is there no fear of someone thinking, oh, that's out there, we wouldn't do that?
Because I'm not dead yet. And that's kind of a joke, but kind of real, because I was nearly dead. And therefore, every day that I get to live my life, I get to be me again. And I'm not going to sit and put a mask on anymore. I'm done with that. It got me in the floor drinking and really unhappy. So,
I mean, it looks fun.
What?
No, the beer suit and the antics, not the.
So yeah, the beer suit.
Not the personal struggle. I'm not that cool.
The authenticity comes from that desire to just to be real, to be who, you know. I'm see so much out there so much people putting on masks or excited, proud, you know, and I just, the reality of Solar Gates is probably what I wanted to show. Plus it has, the first thing I recognised when I went in was it's different when you walk into our building and everyone's having, you know, they're very correctly doing their jobs and they're working really hard, and then every so often it's just this burst of laughter and everyone's like reacting off each other, and then it carries on, and then we're just integrating in that sarcasm, but the fun and the laughter and the drop in everybody's worries and all that kind of stuff. There's no egos, there's no faces, there's no facade, and it was really special to me when I walked in. I was like, wow, and it was just something I wanted to put forward.
As the person that owns the business, has there ever been a point, or was there a point with that where you might be sat in your office thinking, they're just having a laugh out there? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the kind. But the comfort of being able to be that way at work almost comes knowing that it's safe and that there's a kind of permission, if that's the best way to put it, to just be that way and go about. Like, is that just a natural thing that's occurred because you've kind of always been in and amongst that, or is there ever been a point where you think, sounds a bit, doesn't sound very worky out there, maybe I just need to sort of intervene, or, you know what I mean? How do you develop that culture?
Interesting hearing you talk, and to some extent you know, Anna, talk as well. You know, it might sound like a lifestyle business, and to some extent it is, but please be under no illusion, it's a very hard-working business as well. But I've got a team of people around me who really care and work, and when shit needs to get done, everyone is up against it and pulling together. How do I create it? I will never ask anybody to do something I can't or wouldn't do myself. And that's something that has always been the case, because I used to do it all myself. And I'll never ask anyone to do something that I wouldn't do. And that, I think, the team know deeply. But what was the question?
How do you kind of build that safe culture to be yourself and, you know, enjoy, laugh in the workplace?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I remember now. But work's hard and potentially boring. And we potentially spend more time with our work colleagues than we do with our friends and family. So, and given that, you know, no one gets out of this gig alive, let's try and enjoy it as much as possible whilst getting the job done. And working around a bunch of people who have almost, as Anna said, have nearly met death, it does change people's attitude. You know, how important is this particular problem in front of me, this particular work problem in front of me? How important is it really? Does start to change people's attitudes. You know, when people have already seen some of the team who have spent time in jail or time in addiction, which are very similar places to some extent. One's a mental jail, the other one's a physical jail. Once they've come away from that, it does give people a really positive outlook on life, generally, where they won't allow something to get so bad again that they go back to where they were. And so as a company, yes, we do mess around. Yes, I am known to instigate a few things. Yes, I do use some phrases around the office that, you know, perhaps other directors in the business would rather I didn't. Like, what could possibly go wrong? Or, you know, it's just numbers. My two favourite. But we also do care, and we wouldn't have ISO and SMAS and construction line accreditations and clients, you know, across the construction and rail and highways industry if we didn't care. We do care. And we also have a team who are humble enough to be able to say, I'm really sorry I got that wrong. I'm going to get it right. And thanks for helping me learn. Sorry it was with you, but we have learned. And no one is above themselves to be able to think like that, openly and honestly.
Is that honesty a real core value of what you do then, and who you are and what you look for in team members?
Yes, absolutely.
Because you strike me, and I've said this to you before, Anna, you strike me as a company of values from the prison programme which we spoke about with Scarlett before, and rehabilitation and second chances seems to be a real value and care factor of the business towards people. How important is that, and honesty, and how important are core values to you and your business? Because I think everyone would say they've got them. I think people probably live them differently, or more stringently, or not so much so. How important is it to you that you have a set of core values and you really live and breathe those?
Really important, although I didn't know I had them. It was one of your first projects upon arriving at the company.
You didn't even employ me to do it.
No,
I just did it, yeah.
What was it? Tell us.
Well, it was just to assess. It's benchmark company when you get into it and you're going to start branding it. Well, then I have to know what it is, who you are. I knew Neil, but I didn't know anyone else. And what came across was this bunch of people who are amazing, like incredibly creative, innovative. They think differently, they think really well. They have a great sense of humour whilst doing it, but they're incredibly talented people. And but they're really, the authenticity that really shone through too. There was not really many egos. They were sort of really down to earth people. So I wanted that to be that sort of core value. So the innovative, capable, passionate and compassionate, all of those 4 values is something we all sat in a team, a whole team meeting, agreed upon. And I use them obviously in our marketing and stuff, but we use them internally too, to hold, not just as a standard to work to, but as on your bad days. You're that person, you're this person, you're capable, you're skilled, you're innovative, you're creative, and you can do this shit. You don't have to work at 100% every day. It's, you are this person, you are all these things.
On your team, you mentioned ex-addicts, ex-convicts. Tying that in with core values being really important to you, how did you find yourself in a position where helping people via being a part of your business, was that ever part of the plan that wasn't so detailed but did exist, or did that just turn up? How did that come about?
Again, a bit like the plan, it evolved. And a bit like the brand values, we innovated it from an idea to where it is now, which is a program. And it does link to the core values: innovative, capable, passionate and compassionate. We're innovative people, we're capable people, we're passionate about what we do and compassionate to what we do and who we work with. And those 2 are the hardest values, because in order to be compassionate to somebody, sometimes that is helping them. And if ever that help crosses the line to enabling them, then we have to look at being compassionate to the rest of the team and allow that person to no longer be part of the team. Whether they're pushed out, suggested out, or whether they take themselves out. That compassion is a 2-way one. It's the hardest one to balance. Is it being compassionate to a person and their circumstance, or is it being compassionate to a team and their need to fit?
And how do you make that call as to whether or not you are helping or enabling, not you personally, but you understand what I mean, whether someone is being helped in this community or actually being enabled by this community? How difficult is that to almost come to that conclusion that, right, an action needs to be taken, this just isn't working? How tough is that?
very tough and very necessary. A very wise person I went to twice for some advice. And the advice I was given was, if you have to ask the same question about the same person for the second time, do you not know your answer? And so, yes, we talk about second chances. When it goes to third, fourth, fifth chances, we kind of know the answer. There's a job to be done safely, capably, innovatively, and compassionately to the rest of the team. And if those aren't being met, then the fit is no longer there. So it's one of the hardest calls to make, but it's one of the most necessary to make for the health of the business and the team.
What's that like as part of that team if you see someone come and go? Like, I assume, or I might wrongly assume, but I imagine that everyone who comes through your doors, somebody within your team probably likes and strikes a friendship with, and probably would advocate for them getting a second, third, fourth, fifth chance because they want them there and they kind of believe in them and stuff. What's that like to maybe see someone have to go for their own good?
Yeah, I'll answer quickly. It's as a team member, it's hard. It is hard when another team member isn't quite with you. It's easier for a team member though to sit there and go, well, I've got to pick up the slack. You've impacted my day because you didn't do your job, and so it's easier for that resentment to build. I think it's harder for Neil, who actually has to implement the consequence.
Yeah, it's never easy, it's never nice, but it is necessary, and swift decisions need to be made swiftly, carefully and correctly. But it's something that I have certainly witnessed enough times over the years, allowing things to continue to go wrong, to know that actually the long-term view is swift action is the best action for everybody. For everybody within the team, and generally for that person. And I've been doing this long enough now to know that sometimes what felt like harsh and inappropriate action, you look back over a few years, actually it was the right thing to do, and everybody knows it. There's some people who have worked for Solar Gates in the past who no longer work for Solar Gates, whether they left or whether I encouraged them to consider their options, or more bluntly gave them their P45. But there are people who have worked for us who are doing some amazing things all around the world, things that they wouldn't have dreamt of being able or capable to do. And the beginning of that journey potentially started with Solar Gates, giving them the self-respect and some belief that they can do more. So whether or not it ended with us well or less well, generally it's just part of a journey. And I'm able to sit back and see some of the progresses in those journeys, and it's amazing. And that does maybe help sometimes make what feels like a harsh decision on a particular day. I think it's probably just the beginning of a journey.
Are those people and those stories something that over the course of 18 years, are you almost more proud of that than the products and where you've managed to come commercially? Because that's very, very deep, isn't it, to be able to give somebody that kind of platform to just reinvent themselves a little bit and get some self-respect back and kick on. And
potentially those are parts of the compassionate part of our brand values, which help, because sometimes the day-to-day is very boring and hard. So knowing that there's maybe a bigger picture, and knowing that I may not know some of the other bigger pictures that have been created, might have been a stone in the water kind of ripple effect that, a bit like the way we talk about the prison service. Only 40% of Solar Gates are ex-convicts, which is a relatively small number. I wish I could help more, but I can certainly talk about the journey to employers who have much more clout than Solar Gates, nationally and now internationally. And so passing the message about some of the successes and failures and changes of direction that we've experienced by simply just saying, just give it a go. Being able to pass that message on to bigger employers who can pass the message on again, that's fantastic. I love that part of the journey as well. And I may never know the answer to that result.
And how do you, again, you started committee of one. I'll keep coming back to it because you said it. Committee of 1 to 25 people with a company that's changed a lot, employed a very varied set of people. In terms of leadership, do you have a style? Did you have a style? Do you think you've got a style? Like, how do you kind of keep all these diverse types of people all just pulling together in that same direction with a really good culture that's laughs and jokes and hard work at the same time? And like, how do you do that? Because you only ever set out for sandwiches and doilies and yourself, and probably never had to consider other people initially.
In the aspect of authenticity, I feel like I have to say it isn't those things all the time.
No, I get that.
Leadership style is something I have certainly had to work on, and I'm able to accept that I had to work on it, because leading a team of me was one thing. Very early on, I was asked by the local council, I think, to engage in a business link, a small business assistance or something. And I had 3 or 4 employees at the time, and they were asking me sort of questions about, did I understand finances and how to use computers, and did I know what marketing was and how to sell things? And then they asked me, so I was kind of off their kind of scale on most of the things they were asking. And then they said, so what do the people who work for you think about working for you? And I noticed then that 2 things. 1, I didn't know the answer. 2, I'd never thought to ask the question. And that taught me something that day. And that if ever I was going to grow the company, there's a question set I would have to open up to. These days, so I have changed in that respect, and I have probably 2 general leadership styles. One is to be completely dictatorial, and the other one is to be completely hands-off. So a bit black and white.
Yeah.
Grey may develop in time, but I have got a team I trust. So if I hand something over, I trust that it will be done. So, and generally it is. So very rarely do I have to go back to style A.
I would say, do you have to double check it every time you get asked something? And you're like, is this a me one, or is this going to be a you one when you decide that it's dictatorial time?
Do you know, I was trying not to laugh just to that. If it was that terrible, like it was, I often find when you talk about yourself, you are quite black and white in some respects, but you are not like that dictatorial versus hands off. It's no, the majority of the style of management, and so I get it from you, is pretty relaxed and quite cool, and you're just normally sitting, I don't know, talking on the phone and stuff like that, normal office stuff. It's just, you're just sitting there and you'll get up and drinking lots of coffee. But when it comes to crunch, it'll be, okay, you just deal with that and just make it happen. Or, oh God, right, okay, this is going wrong, we're doing it this way. But that's in the situations rather than the style of who you are as a person.
I think most of my management techniques probably got handed to me by my mother, because on some very simple examples. One of them was never waste a journey. Never waste a journey.
Sorry.
And that's, that works all the time. It worked last Thursday. There was something that needed to be delivered to Burton-on-Trent, and I knew I was going to the NEC. Oh, whatever. Never waste a journey. I'm so close, I may as well just do the damn delivery. So take some high-vis and some stuff, because I'll never ask anyone to do something I can't do myself. So I did it anyway, and a journey wasn't wasted. Efficiency was improved, and the customer was happy. Done. So never waste a journey. she used to not like the way that my father cooked certain things. And us as kids, okay, so she had her way and he had his way. Us as kids didn't care. Are the beans hot in a bowl? Don't care. So however it gets done, doesn't really matter how it gets done as long as it gets done. And so that does allow me to be quite hands-off, providing the team know what they're up to and where they're
Back to
going.
trust. You said trust before. Like obviously, if you trust someone to do that,
Yeah, might not be the way I would have done it, and maybe we can pick that up if it keeps happening the way I wouldn't have done it. But yeah, so yeah, never waste a journey and baked beans.
let me just put baked beans as my leadership takeaway from that conversation, because I like to make a few notes that might help me going forward.
God, that never waste a journey one. I can't. It's in the office. That is just like, oh God, here we goes again.
It was from her point of view. It's like, oh, we were watching telly in the lounges, you know, and I was going to say, look, take that, never waste a journey. So, fine, okay. Another one she taught me, which was similar, was I think I must have said, oh, I'll try. And she picked up a thing. She said, try and pick that up. What do you try and pick it up? So, well, you're either going to pick it up or you're not going to pick it up. Choose. And I quite like that one as well.
Yeah.
It works for me. So,
Can you pick that up now?
I can try. Yeah, so there's sort of two opposing mantras. If you don't know what to do, do nothing. Until it gets so uncomfortable doing nothing, do something, even if it's wrong. But just make a decision. And so that's also part of the leadership styles that have probably permeated to a team of misfits that fit.
Your current team, I'm going to word this poorly now. Give me a sec, because we can edit. That's the magic of editing. The first person who got brain fog here was me, which is great.
You've got hours of footage on 4 devices. Oh my God, I'm so sorry for the edit.
There's a new system, you line it all up, press a couple of buttons, and it will actually cut for you whoever is speaking.
That's quite mental.
It's a bit.
AI.
No, it's
Generated.
it's a little bit more complex than that,
Yeah.
but in essence, it can really give you a good head start,
Yeah.
whereby
Yeah.
someone won't necessarily have to sit and literally watch the 3 to 5 hours of total recording.
Can
that
it
we've
then
done
cut
today.
out all the shit?
No,
That's
No.
where
shit.
If-
It happens in front of you. You can just see it
Yeah.
on the timeline. And very clever.
if whatever I just ballsed up, let's just leave that, and if I go to 18 years on in terms of lessons learned, I'm sure there have been many, but what would stand out to you as real lessons learned when starting and then growing a business?
Well, lessons learned. Don't think you know it all, or where it's going to end. To some extent, when it's going to end. That's a reality that is potentially open to every business, any business. There was a significant failure only this week in someone in that industry. That was not on their plan. So, plan for the best outcomes, the best ideas and the best visions and dreams, and prepare for the worst. That was something I learned pretty early on that was necessary, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, maybe even today. So, 8 years ago, I didn't know I was going to turn up to work to find out the warehouse and the offices had been entirely destroyed by a fire next door. Didn't know that was going to happen. It taught us a lot about resilience, and taught me about having an emergency recovery plan, which I didn't have at the time, and we have now. And it was born out of experience.
Yeah. God.
So, being open-minded, adaptable, and bringing together awesome team have been the most key parts of allowing us to get to where we are now. But yes, 18 years ago, once I was fitting the first gate for a school in Kent, if you had described what I would be doing now, I think I would have run a mile. But it has, I suppose, in effect, developed gently. But from a one-man band with a spade and a second-hand van, and that is actually really true. You know, my own tools, my own spade, and a second-hand van. I sold my late 30s. I decided this is when I was going to do this. Don't do the maths.
I'd started actually. It's funny you say that.
Yeah, late 30s. Sold my nice silver estate car and bought a white van, and looked at myself and thought, where's this going? To running a company of awesome individuals with distributors all over the world, innovating products which win awards at places I never thought I would be going to, is quite fantastic. So we must be getting something right, and I'm completely prepared for the fact that one day it may stop, but it hasn't stopped yet. So let's enjoy it while we can, and enjoy today.
And do you, I feel like I'm talking to you about bloody plans, but as you sit now, do you think, okay, 18 years on, now do you have a next 5 years plan, like things you want to achieve, or is it still very much accidental, evolve as we go, listen to customers, develop and innovate accordingly? Or is there anything now that you think, okay, no, actually we're a bit more in control, we're well established, this is a path I would like to take? How does that look for you now? And obviously you've kind of got to keep up with the storytelling and the branding and the marketing of such plan and products, haven't you? As you
completely. I'm not going to answer for you, but I would say it's probably, we're not fully grown up yet, but we're not quite as fly by the seat of your pants as you once were.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we have definitely grown from a one-man band to where we are today. We have shareholders and stakeholders, and we have a 5-year plan which is well established, and it's based on 5 years worth of, 18 years worth of growth and development and improvement and lessons and directions. So yes, absolutely, we have a plan into the future. But as Anna said, we're not fully grown up yet. And we are humble enough to know that we might have got the plan wrong. And if it looks like it's going wrong, we better jam or change, or adapt at least. Change is a word that's used quite liberally in management speak, and it annoys me slightly because, frankly, if someone's a daffodil and they want to be a rose, it's going to be a very long day. We are who we are, and we're good at what we do, and it is quite niche. So to suddenly think we're going to come back tomorrow as selling cakes and muffins, that's quite a big change, so it probably won't be that dramatic. But yes, we have a plan, and we're aiming at that plan, and we're open to the fact that we may need to change, correct our course.
Have you found that the industry is more open to you in that over the last, from the content we probably see, 5 or 6 years, that like sustainability has been such a shift, I would say, as a real key focus word that's buzzing around this industry. You're solar from day one with solar activated products. Has that further opened doors for you in that there is now more of a necessity to look into more sustainable products and power sources and things like that? Has that been a major difference?
It's certainly opened up people's idea to the fact you can do things in a low energy way or in an alternative energy source way. The carbon neutral conversation has been going on for some time now. So yes, absolutely, we have a product that plays in that field. I suppose I get quite frustrated in that we didn't do it for that reason. We did it because we want to automate something in the middle of nowhere with no power source, and we live in England, so there's not much of the big yellow thing often. So how do we do that? And we do it by designing everything in a very low power way from the beginning, so that it is actually possible to run it using solar power in England at whatever latitude. Our latitude today is different from the latitude where I've got an engineer in Glasgow at the moment. So what is the latitude? What do you want to do? How do you want to do it? And how many times do you want to do it a day? And let's do the maths to get that right. But it starts with designing a product that's low power. I get quite frustrated in this industry where an old product gets a solar panel slapped on it and suddenly it's a carbon-friendly product. It's not, it's the same product as yesterday. You've just slapped a solar panel on it, which is possibly just touching the sides of its actual power consumption. We care about the actual power consumption and the latitude and the usage and get it right. So yes, we have a product that is complementary to the net zero future, but we didn't design it for that reason. We designed it because we had no power. End of.
Not actually end of though.
No. Oh, makes us sound like we don't care.
Does it? I just think if that's where you kind of started, and that's the
No, it is.
The honesty behind it, then
It's what you've been talking about recently, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
We have a product, the one we've just launched, and we have a competitor who has something similar, and they're claiming theirs is similar. Theirs uses 1,342 milliamps a day. Ours uses 42. Ours actually works on solar power. Theirs has a solar panel on the top. They are not the same. You can put ours in the dark box and it will work for 3 weeks. You can put theirs in the dark box, it will work for 6 hours. And that's the sort of industry stuff that play on word marketing towards the zero carbon future. It's those sorts of plays that I get quite frustrated about because it's very prolific. Fortunately, at the same time, the term greenwashing is being unpacked a little bit more openly and knowledgeably. And so people are beginning to kind of not greenwash quite so badly. Yes, I did a terrible, dirty, energy-consuming thing, and I planted a tree, so I feel a lot better. Did you really plant a tree? Was that tree already there? And even if it wasn't already there, and you did plant a tree, okay, yes, it's going to save a ton of carbon in 100 years. Make sure you finish the sentence, otherwise you haven't really saved the planet. It's a different tangent. Maybe I'll come back and talk about that another day.
Well, you'll be welcome to do so. Is that something that, as you market and brand the company, does that give you a real sort of like unique angle to go at, that you've got data that can sort of support? Because I don't think I've ever seen, and I've spoken to you about this before as well, I don't really think I've seen much marketing from you as a company about the products you sell. And I like that. It's about your people, the things you believe in, your values, personal stories about, where people have come from and things they've gone through to land where they're at. And it's interesting, and it tells a different story about your company and brand to just, this is us, we sell this, it's really good, do you want one?
Yeah, I mean, the products speak for themselves. So they're out there, they're market leading. So the products speak for themselves. Our people, they are the stories, they are essentially what people are interested in. The carbon net zero stuff, you don't see much from me on that situation, because stats and statistics against what? So what you can, by using our barrier, you can save 10 tons of carbon against what? But there's no answer to that sort of conversation. Or if you put against a person, well, that, if there was a banksman, if we're taking that as a banksman person, so you can potentially say, and what people do is count that person. That person's not on site, so you've saved X amount of carbon, which is a person, and there is a figure attached to that. That person's still alive, he's still in the world, he's still using the carbon. We're not saving that carbon, the carbon is still being generated. So we have a very open policy in our office, and if it's not if we can't genuinely talk about it and be able to talk about it like that 1000 milliamps versus 42 milliamps, so it's a low power solution, like we can tell that ours will run longer, then for me it's not a conversation. So we try to be as sustainable in everything that we do, but we still use steel, we still use concrete occasionally in the fixed installs and stuff like that, and but the yellow boxes of the Instaboom Go, they're all recycled plastic.
Going back to like lessons learned, is there anything that you would do fundamentally differently, or are you one of those people that thinks everything led me here, wouldn't change a thing?
Would I do it differently? No, not at all. Wouldn't change any part of it. It was all part of what was supposed to be. Would I do it again differently? Yeah, potentially. So I'm not going to change the past. Back to why is the windscreen bigger than the rear view mirror? I might need to refer to my past in order to make sure I take the right turning next. I think if I was going to take any lessons from the past, it would have been to be more bold, more adventurous, try more things and take more risks. I think that's what I would have done differently, because those were the points that made the biggest impact. When we stood out boldly, took a risk, tried something that was uncomfortable, they were the biggest successes.
Do you see your marketing as a risk? I only ask because it stands out as different.
Yeah, it stands out as different. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are times in the last 2 years where I have got it wildly wrong and times when I've got it quite wildly right. I released an advert with child in it, but we starred out everything bar the sea, so it looked like a different word. And I can see you're smiling and make me laugh. Yeah, that was, we released a set of it, a set, and then we did, we tested them all, but that was funnily enough the first one to go because people didn't like it, didn't react to it. And so what I thought was really funny and would shock people, and they would therefore read it and click on it and go, people scroll past, which was really interesting to me. We're out there, but I think we've got that balance a little bit better now. We can, we're just like conversational and who we are, back to that authenticity really. We're bloody good at what we do because we are bloody good at what we do, and we have market leading products, that speaks for itself, and it is the reality. But we are a bunch of people who are just people too, and we have fun, and I don't know where I'm going with that now. I'm lost.
on risk.
Yeah.
I'm naturally quite risk averse, so that interests me. For you, if you got to a position of a decision that feels risky, is there a determining factor that makes you think we'll do it, we'll take the risk? If it's something that you maybe haven't done as much as you could have, but when you've taken the risk, they've made the biggest impact. How do you get to that point of being a little bit less risk averse and almost learning to just go for it? How do you get there? It's like I say, I'm quite risk averse. I can't imagine it. I'm a bit cautious by nature, so that seems alien to me.
I suppose 3 things to consider in order to decide what to do. What happens if I do nothing? What happens if I do something and it goes well? And what happens if I do something and it doesn't go well? And which outcome am I prepared to accept? So if I do nothing, nothing will happen. Move on, think about something else. Do it anyway and pick up the consequences, good or bad. make a decision. But I don't like sitting around for too long making that decision.
Yeah, you said earlier about
That's
taking
also-
a decision swiftly but carefully, and instantly I thought, how does that work then? I quite liked that as a borderline oxymoron of quickly but carefully. But I guess the more I think about it, I can see how that still works.
He's a bit of a genius at that. Oxymoron.
Well, maybe it was, relate a lot of stuff back to my mother. This is probably less camera now, but she also prepared us well, because her plan was to kick us away out at 16, which she did. And so we were prepared for that. Not knowingly, but we were prepared. And then you learn to make decisions quickly and carefully.
Like baked beans.
Yeah. Are they hot? Are they in a bowl? Other than that, I don't really care.
So what's
I guess you might have different answers here. What's next for the business? How does the next, 1 to 5 years look now that you've got 18 on the board?
I'm trying to do the maths now. The next year will probably look very similar to the year that we have just done, or are currently in. But we are growing and developing, and Solar Gates has a vision to be more heavily represented internationally, which may end up changing things like manufacturing locations, potentially head office locations. Nothing should be precluded from that longer term view, because there's too much crystal ball gazing otherwise. But yeah, nothing is precluded from that longer term view, but certainly a wider international presence is on the radar. But in order to get there, we need to make the right decisions on a daily basis and be financially supporting and profitable, and available to our customers and reactive to their needs. So if we're not doing that on a daily basis, we don't need to worry about our 5-year plan, because we won't be here to see it.
Yeah, interesting. What does your next step look like? Is yours, I think I said to you just before, does yours focus around Highways UK at the minute and just being stressed out by how you get bees into an arena?
Yeah, custom building a beehive. Currently sitting in the office under a piano with bees in it. Yes, short term, yeah. I mean, but I have to say it's a few weeks before, and it's just one event on the calendar that I'm already planning for halfway into next year, marketing and sales wise, and talking to customers and stuff like that. We're certainly having those conversations already, and have stuff going on. Like Neil, that's not a crap answer, sorry. Tripping over myself.
It doesn't matter. There's no sorry. Just we can go again.
It's fine. I'll carry on.
If you see something and hate it, we'll cut it out completely, or just go back to a point where you start and none of this bit will ever exist.
Just sounded really corporate and on me, and I was like, oh, I don't like it. It feels weird, and I had to stop. We're certainly, we're having conversations. We've got plans afoot, certainly for the next year to 18 months. Products being developed, just really, some really cool stuff. And that is the sort of short year to 18 months. That would be, getting those sort of out. And longer term, the international stuff that becomes available. I mean, I'm always up for a trip to somewhere hot and sunny, so
Southend in the summer.
No, I'm thinking more Mauritius or the Seychelles. They have lots of roads there, right?
I'm working on Alaska.
No, actually I wouldn't mind Alaska. Quite like that. To get to see bears. I want to see a bear.
Roads, that's it.
Ice roads. It'd be quite interesting.
With, I think again, I said to you before that this is called the extra mile. If I said to you, both of you, what does going the extra mile mean to you? What would you say?
What would you say?
So my upbringing and my ethos, I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was about 9 or 10 years old, and so going the extra mile for me has always had a sort of a competitive edge to it, I guess, in a somebody's told me I can't, so bloody well I will. And yeah, so on a personal note, on a personal level, it is just like putting in the extra effort and making it shit hot, as my dad would say, making it spanking. I guess going the extra mile as an organisation and as a business, I think we try to be authentic in everything that we do. We are who we are, and we're not going to shy away from that and try and be, bloody good and excellent and deliver on what we say we're going to do. These market-leading products are not going to stay market-leading if they fail. They don't do what we say we're going to do if we're not constantly innovating new and trying to improve. And that is going the extra mile for me as a professional basis in Solar Gates.
You're the first person that's ever taken that as a competitive prompt.
Yeah, do you know what?
Like it.
Well, when I did my GCSEs, so my brother's only 18 months older than me, and so he did his GCSEs a year before I did mine, and I had been diagnosed dyslexia when I was in primary school, but I was failing quite miserably at school right up until my GCSEs. In fact, right up to 3 months before Zach's age now, by the way. And my mum said to me, okay, my brother's really intelligent, by the way. He's a civil engineer in Australia and just nearly aced everything. And she said, well, you're not going to do what your brother did. So what, how about we concentrate on what you can do? And she said, instead of getting your 8 GCSEs that it was at the time, why don't we aim for 6? And I just looked at her and was like, God, you're patronising. I've got 8 GCSEs. I just had to put in a bit of extra work. That was it. That's what it is, isn't it? Going the extra mile.
I like it. Where does it sit for you as a concept, Neil? What does going the extra mile mean to you?
So interesting, the Solar Gates team went out for a walk last week, I think, to celebrate our 18th birthday. And we decided to go for a walk to raise some money for a charity that we support and have a bit of team bowling and bonding and enjoy some Kent countryside. We were going to walk 18 kilometres. By the time we got back to where we started, which was indeed the rough plan, we realised that we had
these rough plans.
we had a rough plan. Go for an 18 kilometre walk and end up where you started, and then go for dinner at the pub. That was the plan. Raise some money for charity. There you go, fixed. We actually ended up walking the extra mile, inadvertently. And everyone's Strava confirmed that we'd done 20 kilometres instead of 18 kilometres. 22. Oh, so we actually walked the extra mile and then walked the extra mile again.
Yeah.
So, as a company, we go the extra mile. Sometimes we don't plan to, but if it needs to be done, we do it. And I think last week was a really good example of the fact we just do that inherently because of the team of misfits that we are, that do it together because we fit.
I like it. We'll end it there.